by 2050, Africa will have around 830 million young people. Things are changing on the African continent a lot. We have like this unemployment crisis, and we have this growing pool of young people. These are the people that are going to need jobs. What is that going to mean for teams in the future? You will always remember how Jerusha peer pressured you to drink wine. 2 years ago, this person would not have stood up and spoken there, but they are doing it now. Yeah, I feel like that is a contribution I've made.
And I guess it's one of the difficulties I had with you in the beginning of our work relationship.
I do hope that you continue to do exciting work. I'm going to be watching you, like social media, stalking you from the distance to see you growing and be like, I know her. And one day be like, hey, Noluthando, can I go work for you? Welcome to the second episode of my podcast. It now has a name. It's called The Blank Canvas Dialogues, and I'm Jerusha Govender. And this podcast series is really about sharing a bit of me, but also talking about topics that are really related to data, digital kind of space for development. And I'm having a series of conversations with people that know me and people who work in the space. And just a reminder that I'm really at the point of exploring opportunities. So this is a space where you can engage with me on my website, jerushagovender.com. And I'm keen to continue my work in building a better Africa by improving how we use data, how we use technology to utilize data as well. And in this second episode, I am speaking to a fellow colleague, Noluthando Mqakelana. I keep on swapping the E's and the I's. And in this episode, second episode, I'm speaking to a previous colleague of mine, Noluthando Mqakelana.
Getting there.
And in this second episode, I'm speaking to a previous colleague of mine, Noluthando Mqakelana. Great to have you here.
You just confirmed why I often don't say my surname when I do intros, because people struggle with it.
I know, but I've been after working with you for like 2.5 years. I should be able to say it properly. So Noluthando, we've been working together, or we've worked together, because since my exit from Data Innovators, we now are kind of, we have a historical relationship, but we've got to know each other at Data Innovators kind of for the first time. Like we were almost forced to collaborate, right?
That's correct. This level 2021.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. And I've had so many changes before that with regards to line management or line managers. And I had a conversation with the DI CEO, just sussing out in terms of how I'm feeling with this change and whatnot. And it was like, I've had these changes for so long, so I'm sure we'll figure this one out. And we did.
Yeah, we did. I think we definitely connected. I think maybe we were lucky that, because not often do you connect with a team member where you just gel. In fact, I think through that merger, there were some that they were not good connections, actually. But I did feel that we had like a shared interest in skills development, not necessarily in kind of, because you come from working in the education space. You also come from working in kind of the digital adoption space. And I think those were points where our minds met. And we both are pretty good when it comes to facilitation. So I think that's how, like, somehow we could gel. But I mean, based on those 2 years, what was it like working with somebody like me? What could you share with those? What was the experience in being a team member of Jerusha's team, being a collaborator and working under my leadership?
So what was of interest or something I was looking forward to personally was the fact that I'm having a line manager who is a female. Because prior to that, when I think about it, actually I had line managers who are males. So having a female was something that I was excited about. and we kicked off the work relationship. And one of the things that I actually appreciated about you is your view of team members that you work with, in terms of viewing them as partners in the work that you're doing, and appreciating what they possibly contribute to the work that you both are doing. So it's like thought partner, you having that collaborative mind when you work with team members. You know, when you read on people's work experiences or their line managers or the work environment generally, and in most cases, the manager comes forth in terms of how they engage or treat the team members. So you get, when you read such, you get to appreciate more what you experience with your line manager. So it was a great 2-3 years.
Yes, it's like 2 years and a bit.
Yeah.
Since like beginning of 2021.
Yeah, so those are the traits that, so characteristics in you that made working with you enjoyable.
Oh, awesome. And what are some of the things that you've learned through our kind of collaboration that you're going to take forth as you become, like, as you grow as a leader? Like, what are the key things, maybe 2 key things that you would take with you?
So the biggest one is putting clients first, and not only having the view of what the current phase of the project is or what is stated in the contract currently, but as you're delivering on what you're doing, sort of like think of what could be the next for the client. That's like really one of the big things. And it's good for business generally, so that you retain clients and build this long-term growth with them. That's one. And then secondly is working with teams. I think you've worked with different team members in the team and across the business units. And when I engage with team members, is basically the same story. So it's the same Jerusha across. So there isn't like, okay, I have this version of Jerusha and then a team member has a different one. So it's basically how you engage and build teams as they deliver on the work. So those would be my 2 main big ones.
Okay. Yep. And through our work, we've also got to work on a couple of cool projects. So I kind of just want to delve into like the details of some of the projects that we've worked on together. Data Artistry was one of them. That was like this project or this initiative that was born from the previous Data Innovator, the smaller Data Innovator 1.0 as we were calling it, and was around focusing on building skills amongst young professionals, and we kind of revamped that quite a bit. And I think that for me was like a key project that I worked with you on. Like we spend a lot of time together thinking through what that might be, how do we do it differently, how do we revamp, and it's one that I'm excited to see how you continue to build on that. What projects stand out for you? Like, what projects do you feel like you've seen us like collaborate well, or you've learned with me and through the work that we've done together?
I think the Dell Young Leaders program that we did, possibly our first training together, or in-person training together.
I think so. I think we did some virtual ones.
Yeah. So that was really a highlight. And a part of it is, of course, our work relationship and the skills that came to the party, but also how we well co-facilitated that training. But also it was just one of our ideal clients for that program, because they signed up very clear on what they want to resolve in the team through the training. And it made it easy to deliver that training, because they understood the so what. I'm in this training, so what am I going to gain? So they were clear in bringing in their challenges and how they think this the offering that we're doing is going to solve that. So that was a great one. And the recent one, Towards Your Exit, I guess that also just speaks to the relationship that we've built over the years and the trust that you've established in me. The NECT. That was just like a click of a button, so kind of hand over with little to no concern. And in the organization, we're talking about how complex the project is, how important it is that we manage it well, and for possible continued work with relationship with the client. But in you, I didn't entirely experience that. Others like concerns, but with Jerry, she's like, no, Noluthando will handle that. That's okay. So to me, really, that spoke or defined the relationship that we have established over the years, which was a good close of 2023 for me.
Yeah, I think like in the example of the NECT one, because that is quite a complex project where there are multiple work streams, and it's not just, there's an element of data skills development, but in fact it's more about processes and various tools and understanding multiple different users and stakeholders, and you have different team members, and there is no way as the team leader for that you could be the expert of all. So I think, I mean, what I've also learned, and something that I try to carry through in my leadership, is that I understand I can't, like, I need to rely on my team. There are only there's so much that I can know. And in this, that's also why that I can see when another team member does not have to be perfect at something. I'm not, because it's almost impossible for somebody to be, then you will be a focused role. Like, then you must just go make the dashboard and that's it. But in the work we do in development, it's always complex. And you need team members and need to be able to build team members to be able to take on complexity and know enough, but know how to utilize other team members. Like, I know you are strong at facilitation. I know you are strong with dealing with gray, because there are people that you can then call on. And I think that's why there are situations where it seems like, oh my gosh, why are you handing this over to this person? But I'm like, no, I know what it takes for this. And it does not take a data scientist for this work. Some cases you need that, but not in others. I think for me, one project to add that I feel was a great learning together was the work we did with Smart Start. Because I think some of the things that I was also realizing with our team and working with you, I think you pointed it out also, that training is not enough. It's not enough to just teach somebody, oh, here's the dashboard, good luck. Or this is how you do a graph, go for it. Like, something we learned through the work with Smart Start in the ECD space is that, again, you're working in complexity, and there's a need for mentorship, there's a need for coaching, there's a need for thinking strategically with even the senior management team, because in order for us to build skills, you need to be able to have a space to do that. You need to have systems that allow us to do that. And that's one of the projects where we looked at data and digital skills from a very comprehensive perspective together.
That's true. Now that you mention it, and one of the privileges of that project was the duration. Because in most cases with our data, this program is like 2 days, and then you're out. Or it's 2 days, and then 24 hours of mentorship. But for them, it was like 6-7 months, which was great. And to a certain extent as well, we were not so immersed in the team, but there was a level of immersion in the delivery. And we got to understand their challenges. And the big takeout from that work was we got to a point whereby we were the advisor for the organization, so to say. So things that were outside of the contract that we're delivering on, so that, like, there's an email, Noluthando Jerusha. So that was a big tick for the work that we've actually done with them. But also it did indicate some challenges within the space of training and skills development. In most cases, I think even with leaders, when they sign up for training, they don't consider the after training. Noluthando has been to training, and we sent her for this training because we realized these gaps. Now, after she's been to training, what do we need to do to translate the training knowledge and skills to closing those gaps? I think that's a big gap when it comes to training. And it's something that was we also observed with Smart Start, because this is the training, and now we needed key decision makers within the business to help us, so work together with their teams and with us to close those gaps and improve. And it's always a huge challenge in my experience to get there, because somehow the leaders like, training is done, I should start seeing returns. And it's not the case. Yeah.
Yeah. So on that, I mean, how do you make it stick, and has been something we've thought about a lot. Looking back at the work that we've done, not just there's the skills development stuff, there's the building systems together. What kind of impact do you think we've made? Have we made any impact because of the work we've done?
It's difficult to track the impacts, mainly because of the duration of the projects that we do, because we can agree that change takes long. And also, the other thing that makes it difficult to track the impact is exactly what I said previously, that the focus is on the participants in the program and not on the decision makers in the business. So that's a gap that we've been trying to close with our program, and we've done that to a certain extent with almost said Initiative NASKI, where we were not only engaging with the participants, but we were also bringing in the line managers, the directors in the business, to talk about the progress, what is delivered in this training. And it was great to hear a couple of success stories from that element of our training, whereby we were hearing them say, no, this team member who has been in training, went through this session, and they realized the gap in the business. They came forth to say, oh, okay, we just covered this, and I realized this is a lack in the business, and I'm willing to step in. So that was great. But the impact we're making, as much as we struggle to quantify it or make it seem tangible, the impact that we're making is getting them to think of the current processes in the business, and in some cases, change of perspective and seeing things differently. And I guess that's a good start. So it's a matter of how then do we strengthen that aspect of including the decision makers in the program and making sure that they reap the benefits. I guess if we're to use that with them to click, because as business leaders, they do want to see the returns of what the investment has been.
Yeah, for sure. And I think because the work we've done together and the work you'll continue to do is it's all about a social end goal, right? It's around a positive change in the education system, in the health system, whatever we're working. And then, even in the private sector space, we've done some work there where we want them to be able to operate more efficiently, or want to support them to do so. So I guess it's something that we hopefully over the next, impact does take time, you're right.
Yeah.
And over the next year or few years, you'll continue to measure that. I also see that there are perhaps anecdotes or these signals that we've influenced some impact. The fact that people still call on me and say, hey, are you still doing those things? Do you know? Or people have asked about it, are signs that maybe we're at the point where it's more, we've created an awareness of the importance of building data skills. And we've started seeing some cases. I think there were some where it's sometimes small. Like I've had the CEO of an organization tell me that she won the best poster at a conference. Like, at conferences they have those. She's like, and it was a very academic organization, and she would never step up and do anything visual, for example. And she's like, I actually won the best poster at a conference, and I used infographics. And it's like people are completely thinking differently now about how you can present. It was like epidemiology data. I was like, cool. And I think those are those signals that, okay, we are seeing that our work as a team and our work about thinking about how we do this differently slowly is shifting things, but it may take time.
True. And I'm made to think of the recent one, I think it was towards the end of October last year, L'Oreal. So what we do in the program, we often don't want to use dummy data. We want to use the actual organizational data or program data, project data, just to make the training more relevant and real for participants. So checking about the signals of impact for the L'Oreal case, that was so clear. Because in that we use their real organizational data, and we ask them to use previous reports that they've done, or data comms that they've put together. And now that they've been through the data artistry program training and we asked them to recreate, that was massive for me. It was one of the biggest highlights of the data artistry program in terms of the outputs, so what they produced in terms of recreating that, and also how the participants themselves were blown away. So I look forward to engaging with the learning and development manager and the line managers doing that training, just to hear in terms of where they've gone since that training. But it was really, really great. Once again, going back to that mind shift thing that I was talking about.
In the L'Oreal example that you just brought up, that project itself was quite intense. I think it was also the timing of it, because it was, the timing of many things happening, and it's at the end of the year, or close to the end of the year. And I know through that, the experience which you were direct and honest with me about was that I was intense. And I know I have that moment where I can go into like crazy deliver mode and be like, go, 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 go. And you have to kind of like call me out and say, like, who are you? Like, what? Like, calm the hell down. I mean, those are that's one moment where, those are important moments where, it's never perfect in a team relationship. It goes up and down. But I mean, like, what are some of like that? What do you think were the key things that helped us get through that and other things as well?
I guess it's the personality thing that I was mentioning, that if, for example, I was not a forthcoming person, I could have probably just sucked that up and like complain and be demotivated or whatever the case might have been, but more on the negative side. But because of open and I like addressing things if there's anything, and also just sense checking what you might be thinking or feeling about a situation. Also that was the biggest help in that situation, because I spoke to our colleague, and then she tried to contextualize what could be the reason behind that, like making me see things from your perspective as well, as opposed to just mine. And that helped. And then when I came forth to talk to you, so I had rounded my head around how I'm seeing things from my side and how Jorisha is possibly seeing things from his side. And also your openness to receive such feedback. To say, Jorisha, I don't appreciate how you dealt with this, and not being defensive about it, and also just taking a back moment to sort of like reflect on or acknowledge the impact it had on me, because it's often something that it gets missing in these things, that you react in a manner that you're not thinking of the impact on the next person. Don't worry about the wrong or right, but how did it impact the other person, and then address the right and wrong. So yeah, and I guess it's one of the difficulties I had with you in the beginning of our work relationship. Because I just thought, Jennifer is so focused on deliverables, like activities, tasks that need to be done. And she's short-sighted about the fact that there's a human being behind the deliverables. So that was a concern. But like I said, that the relationship that we shared, we were able to have those conversations. And with the performance review, remember you have that upward feedback. Mm-hmm. And I think in the organization, I was one of the few people who were actually doing that at the beginning. So I included that in the feedback. We had the conversation. So having these open conversations is one of the things that I believe really builds the team or gets people's working relationship to where we ended. So yeah, no, that was an intense one.
Yeah. One of many. So, well, I mean, not only with you, I think I do acknowledge that I have that, I'm a very driven person in all avenues. And I mean, I do care about people a lot. So I kind of flip between the spaces where, I really appreciate, this is something I tell my friends as well and others, like, I really appreciate feedback. It's like, I value it. I'm like, that's a gem, and it helps me improve, and it helps us open up our relationship, because if you can tell me hard stuff, then the next time I need to tell you something hard, it's easier for us to do that. When you don't have that, you then kind of just hold difficult things on your back forever.
It's true, but I also believe that people who are like that, who are like, okay, I'm okay with feedback of any kind, is people who have a level of self-awareness. But people who have low to none, it's difficult to have.
To receive.
Yes, but when that person is aware and has good sense, healthy sense of self-awareness, then such conversations become manageable. But what would you say have been your biggest highlights of working with the team at DI across?
Biggest highlights.
Yeah.
Definitely seeing like specific team members grow, because I think that there are team members like yourself and others that I've been on a journey with. There are others that I've been on the journey with even longer. And I feel like I've collected mental data points of people, and that energizes me, where I can like think back to the baseline and say, you know what, 2 years ago, this person would not have stood up and spoken there, or this person would have never taken on that task, but they are doing it now. I think that's a highlight for me, because, yeah, I feel like that is a contribution I've made for somebody's development. And yeah, I think that energizes me. I think the work we've also done, like we've done exciting work together. We've done really cool projects, and we've had fun together. I think that's the other thing, that there were projects where, like with the work we did with Data Artistry, where there were late nights, we were like looking through content, we were thinking about what must be printed, whatever, the day before. But then there was like the flip side of it, where we just had a good time. And I mean, the work we did when we went to Cape Town and did the Dell Young Leaders thing, I mean, I had fun with you and Tibogo, like just hanging out. So I think those are the things that stand out for me. It's like I had these experiences of seeing somebody grow, having a fun moment. Like now I have a memory with that person, and it's got nothing to do with work, but it was a good moment.
Yeah, like the wide memory.
Eh?
Like the wide memory.
Yes, like the wine memory, exactly. You'll always remember how Jerusha peer pressured here to drink wine. Yeah, I said this in the first episode as well. I like pushing people to do things that make them uncomfortable, including drinking alcohol. At least it was legal, okay? But yeah, there are those kinds of things that I feel like are part of the things that stand out to me, the types of projects we've delivered on and can write about now. So let's talk a little bit about like future. I mean, it is complicated as it is to figure out how to build a team, how to build an individual up to be like a strong leader in a space. And we know that things are changing on the African continent a lot. I mean, some of the things that I've picked up in the data skill spaces. So in the World Economic Forum always does this report on future skills. Like every year they do an annual kind of review and look at what types of skills are companies demanding and how is that changing over time. And they almost use that as a prediction for where will the demand for jobs be in the next few years. And in the last year report, I think the key things that were picked up as skills that are in demand are analytical skills, creative skills, and technology literacy. Those are like the top three that were in demand in 2023. People were wanting people to do that. And of course we know that, even in our anecdotal experience, we know that that is sometimes a limiting factor for some team members. You can get trained on statistics and so on, but creative thinking, analytical thinking, and even the tech literacy is something that you're learning on the go. At the same time, on the continent, we know that we have this unemployment crisis, and we have this growing pool of young people. And I think the stat is something that by 2050, they predict that Africa will have around 830 million young people. Even currently on the continent, more than 60% of our population is under 25. So we've got a very young cohort. These are the people that are going to need jobs. And we know we've got this kind of future of jobs that may not, there's possibly a mismatch. With all of this going on, like what are your, I mean, I'll share some of my thoughts, but what are your thoughts on what is that going to mean for teams in the future? What do you imagine you may be doing in the next 5 years to make sure that we're responding to this is the demand and this is the people that can offer it? Like, what would that mean?
For me, it really speaks to the need for organizations or companies to strengthen the element of learning and development, whereby you have the initiatives within to make sure that the team members build these skills based on such reports or research that is actually giving insights to what is to come. So that is a key thing, but also individuals in terms of being committed to your own personal development, because what's nice these days, you don't need to go to college or varsity like physically. You can like sign up for free courses or you can do online. So it's two elements in terms of having those initiatives within the organization for learning and development, and also creating that drive within the teams. I guess that also speaks to the managers themselves, because when you're a manager, I believe you're not only looking for delivery on projects or the work within the organization, but you're also interested in developing this person. Speaks to your point around retaining them. Then when those initiatives are in and there's this element also being closed by the manager, then the retention of that individual is strengthened, because this person sees that there are opportunities for growth within the organization in terms of improving their knowledge and skills. There's also this person who's actually supporting them. And then therefore, I'm assuming that in such cases, there's also a clear journey in terms of succession, what your next possibly looks like. So in terms of me personally, to really speak to the third one around the technology, I'm very interested in people getting the benefits or the rewards of whatever they sign up for. So what we often find now is people sign up for a tool or they get the gadget, and then there is this automatic assumption that it will translate into. So they sometimes very clear on what they want to see with signing up for that tool, but they are not often clear on what it would take for me to ideally see the end result of having this. And I'll give you a situation when I was in the education sector. So organizations will come in and give them gadgets, laptops, the projectors and all the goodies. I went to one school, and when I asked about that, it was in Limpopo, when I asked about the gadgets that they received from so-and-so organization, the principal walked me to the storeroom, what they call a strong room, because the door is quite heavy. Oh. They're still in boxes, collecting dust, brand new. They're like, no, we can't use them because of crime in the area, which was very disturbing. So even in our space with the tool that we have within the organization, there are clients that we've signed up for the impact board, the monitoring and evaluation software that we have within the organization, but it's still hard work to get them to really see the vision that they had when they signed up materialize. And it really speaks to them not taking into account the process. So it's like Noluthando comes in, trains us on this, therefore change happens, whereas is not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I agree, because I think like what you're sharing is that having tech literacy is going to be important. It is important, especially for young people, because we're going to have more young people that need to be working in a space that they can deal with tech. But even in the current context, it's not like tech enabling. It's not, and they are not even a small thing. They are critical things like understanding crime, which is as much, you could have hundreds of phones, and so access to a phone is not a challenge, but crime can limit your access because either it's going to be stolen, or in a school it's being stored away before fear of being stolen, and so people don't get to actually engage with the technology and use it for useful purposes. So yeah, I think that there are a lot of things that from like a grassroots we will have to address. And I think it goes back to kind of that digital access, digital inclusion, that if we see the future of teams are going to need these skills, at the grassroots right now, we need to address some of those gaps. Like, how are we actually ensuring like that education is allowing for inclusive access to digital solutions and learning, digital solutions for learning, that actually the education system is allowing some way of analytical thinking and creative thinking, because this is the cohort that is going to be your team in the next decade or my team in the next decade. Because I fear that, if some of those things are not addressed, and even at like that entry level, because I think we spend a lot of focus on like, actually, let's just get them through the education system, but we're like, that's not enough. Like, how are we going to really strengthen the supply of people? Which sounds like machines, but you know what I mean? Like this pool of humans that can do good work, but also how are we creating, like, ensuring that where there's the demand, that it's feeding into that as well. Because I think there's room for people to play roles that are not just the advanced data analyst role. Like, how do we start creating opportunities that gives, the person that does not have a matric, but did a certain course or has understanding of how to even set up technology in a school. And that is a job opportunity for them. Like, how are we looking at the job market a little bit differently so that it's not like this gap between the skills I have to build to get into this advanced role? Because I guess that it also does affect like the role we can play in almost shifting what that supply demand looks like from a data and a digital skills perspective. But it also means that we need to think about, like, in the future, my team may be a very young team, or maybe a team that's made up of a mix of skills, like very entry skills, mid, and then senior, because that's the new kind of market of youth that's entering the space and need opportunities. So yeah, things for us to think about. Cool. So it's been really good chatting with you, Noluthando, just having a conversation around what it's been like to work together, the projects that we've worked on. I do, as we talk about it, I also feel like that, like, oh, Mac, I'm going to miss those things. Because we're talking about it, it's in the past tense. But I do hope that you continue to do exciting work. I'm going to be watching you, like social media, stalking you from the distance to see you growing and be like, I know her. And one day be like, hey, Noluthando, can I go work for you? That will be an indicator of like positive outcomes when I apply for a job or to work for you. Yeah.
No, it's been lovely. Thank you for the invite, Jerusha. It's really been also a reflective space of the work that we've done together, the relationship that we've established. And like I said, it's like now that sore point that, like, okay, this is it. So that's also just it's reopening things that, okay, you ever dealt with.
Oh, it's not get sad.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool that we can now have these conversations as peers in the field as you continue your thing, and I will explore what my next is.
All the best with that. I look forward to see what that is.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you for joining me on the second episode of the Blank Canvas Dialogues with Jerusha and Noluthando. I hope it was a good opportunity for you to get to know me a bit more, and also to listen to us talk a bit about our work in data skills development. Please do continue to follow me on judicialgovernor.com, where you can sign up for a meeting. I'm open to meeting now, so please do book an appointment with me. You can also share this podcast and comment on it as well. Thank you, and do join me on the next episode, where I'll be speaking to another fellow thinker in the data and the digital space for development.